So, Josh, are you ready to begin unveiling our 2025, technically 2026 as well, NBA predictions?
Let's get right into it.
So, we have agreed that I'm going to go first. So, I'm going to lead off with the Eastern Conference. And I'm going to go 1 through 8 based off how you would do. If you want to include the play-in tournament in your predictions, you're more than likely to. I can't stand the play-in tournament, and I think it's a gimmick, and I hate it. So I'm going to go based off who I think are just legit the top 8 teams in each conference.
Okay.
If you want to interrupt me after each one, go ahead. If you want to wait till I give the full list, go ahead. Either or. If something shocks you, let me know.
Okay.
As the number 1 seed, I know they're going to be without their point guard at the start of the year, but with all the other injuries in the Eastern Conference and with the depth this team has, they were the number 1 seed last year in the Eastern Conference. I think they're going to do it again. The Cleveland Cavaliers, who I think obviously this year is a proven year in the playoffs, but I think they should breeze through this regular season. I'm talking at least 60 wins, if not 65. I think there is a scenario where they get close to or even break potentially what the Thunder did last year at 68 wins. I just think this team is going to breeze through the regular season. And quite frankly, I don't care what they do in the regular season. I don't even care if they get the 1 seed or not, to be honest with you. It's more about what are they going to do in the postseason.
So, to comment on your first part about Garland missing the start of the season, that's really what scares me because I saw our projected starting lineup. It's going to be Mitchell at point guard, Sam Merrill at shooting guard, which I don't love. DeAndre Hunter at small forward, which, with all due respect to Max Strus, I know he's injured again, but this should be the regular starting lineup anyway. Once Garland comes back, I like Hunter in there instead of Strus, Mobley, and Allen. But it's that Garland injury that scares me a little bit.
I agree with that. Now, as the 2nd seed in the East, this team made the Eastern Conference Finals last year. They have a new head coach in Mike Brown.
I still don't get that hire.
They are known as the New York Knicks, who they bring back most of the same team. There was rumors in the offseason about, do they trade Karl-Anthony Towns? Do they not? He's still there for now. I think Mike Brown is very similar to Tom Thibodeau. So I'm interested to see how this Knicks team works. I think obviously they need to use the bench more. But this is, again, another team with finals expectations that should relatively be good in the postseason, probably between 55 and 60 wins.
So you and I agree on the top 2 seeds, maybe not necessarily the order, but this feels like it should be the Eastern Conference Finals. If it's not, something's gone wrong for either one of them. For me, it's that duo of Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns. We saw it work at times last year. At other times, you're like, nah, I don't think they really go together. So can Mike Brown find that consistent chemistry between them? And it's also, for me, the biggest question is OG Anunoby and Josh Hart. It's those two. Where do they fit into the mix? Because at times I felt like the Knicks didn't get enough consistent play out of those two. And that's what really hurt them, at least from my perspective, in that series against the Pacers.
Okay, so I know at number 3 we're going to disagree, but this is where I think it gets really tough in the East. Because I think you have a bunch of similar teams. And I don't know how good Boston's going to be without Jason Tatum. And I don't know how good Indiana's going to be the full year without Tyrese Haliburton.
Plus, they lost Miles Turner to the Milwaukee Bucks.
And because of that, I have a team who last year made the playoffs, but they were banged up all year. And they made a great addition in the offseason, which is what they needed, which was shooting.
Okay, I agree then.
I have the Orlando Magic as the free seed in the Eastern Conference. I think the Desmond Bane acquisition was maybe the biggest acquisition of anybody outside of Kevin Durant this offseason. I think Pablo Banchero takes a huge step up to go with Franz Wagner as well, who I think is coming on as a really good, solid number 3. And I think Orlando could even challenge the Knicks and or the Cavs for that top 2. I don't know if they're going to be as good to get the 1 seed, but I think there's a real chance they could challenge for the 2 seed.
I can tell you we agree on the first 3 teams, not necessarily the order that you have them in, though.
Okay. At the number 4 seed.
I think this is where we're going to start disagreeing.
This team, you and I have disagreed on more than any other team, I think, in the NBA, even more so than the Pacers. I said going into the offseason, I like this team. I like what they have in Nikola Vucevic, Kobe White, their coach, Billy Donovan. I think this is the team that is the shock of the NBA this season. The Chicago Bulls are going to be a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference.
What? Excuse me?
This is a really good, solid basketball team who, if you remember last year, very similar to what the Houston Rockets did 2 years ago when they just missed the playoffs. They went on that run at the end of the year. The Bulls were a game away from making the playoffs last year. I think that team takes a huge jump.
Okay.
I mean, Josh Giddey, Kobe White, Vucevic, you got Kevin Huber, Trey Jones. I forgot they also have our buddy Isaac Okoro, who's a very good defender. Not a great shooter, but a very good defender as a wing. Like, this team, I think, can compete.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm curious to see where you have a couple other teams.
At number 5, they are coached by J.B. Bickerstaff. I have Cade Cunningham and the Detroit Pistons. I think they take a step up, and I think the Pistons compete this year. I think, they took the Knicks to 6 games last year. You could have made an argument they could have beat the Knicks last year in the playoffs. I think it's another typical, how JB did with the Cavs, right? He went from play-in tournament to first-round exit to second-round exit. I think the Pistons take another step up, and I think they're the 5 seed this year in the East, as opposed to, I believe they were the 6 seed a year ago.
Yes.
Okay. That leads us to number 6.
Yes.
Which this team, 2 years ago, won the whole goddamn thing. The Boston Celtics. So I put them at 6 for this reason. We've talked about it ever since the Jason Tatum injury. We have debated a lot, obviously. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. And I know you don't like the debate because I know you think they're equal. But I do think this year we're going to learn who's right on the argument. Because if the Celtics are a 2 or 3 seed with Jaylen Brown, then you could make the argument maybe Jason Tatum isn't as valuable. If they're a 7, 8, 9 seed, dare I say, miss the playoffs, then you could say, oh, Jason Tatum, he is a top 5 player in the league. He is more valuable to the Celtics. I think it's going to end up somewhere in between. I think they get off to a slow start. They've had a lot of changing parts. They've dumped a lot of guys via salary. Right now, our old buddy George Niang is in the starting lineup. I just don't think they're as potent. I don't think they're going to be as good of a regular season team when they're going up against these up-and-comers like Chicago, Detroit, and Orlando.
I would put Toronto in the mix there too.
Okay. At number 7, this team last year made the NBA Finals, the Indiana Pacers. I think they're still a playoff team. I think their depth is what's going to get them through. I think Pascal Siakam proved to be an incredible player down the stretch. I think he can be number 1 in spurts. I know they lost Miles Turner, but they have almost everybody else back. Again, I think it's going to be one of those situations where Rick Carlisle is a very good coach. They're well coached. They're going to win enough games they're just going to find a way to sneak into the playoffs, if you will. They'd be the home team in this scenario in the 7-8 playoff.
Okay.
So at number 8, there are some teams I know that you noticed that aren't there yet, like the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah,
like
I was going to say, where's Giannis?
Like the Philadelphia 76ers.
I'm not surprised you don't have Philadelphia in there. Spoiler alert, I don't.
I know you're higher on the Raptors than I am. I don't see any talent on the Raptors. Your Raptors is my take on the Raptors is like your take on the Bulls. So we completely disagree on that front. But at number 8, this team seems to always sneak into the playoffs. And no, it's not Heat culture because I don't think they have really anything. But this team has a little short point guard who just finds a way to score points in Trae Young, and a big forward in Kristaps Porzingis, who I think if he stays healthy can bring some value there, and they have good shooting off the bench. I think Atlanta's just a team that's going to try to outscore you, and I think that wins games in the regular season. They may have an under 500 record, but I think they can sneak in the back half and be that 8 seed, but I'm not confident about it.
I thought you would act, based on the way you were talking about Atlanta in previous shows, I thought you would have them in like your top 6.
I think there's better teams out there. Now, let me explain real quick before you go what I think about Milwaukee, because that's obviously the big elephant in the room. My hot take is Giannis Antetokounmpo is not going to finish this regular season with the Milwaukee Bucks.
Okay.
Now, whether that is with the Knicks, I don't know. I did not do my standings based off he's going to go to this team or that team because I don't know. I think the Spurs have assets. I think the Knicks obviously want him. But I think this Milwaukee thing, I know they brought in Miles Turner, but this thing feels like a sinking ship ready to implode. And I think if they get off to, a 2-9, 2-10 start, Giannis is going to request a trade. And I think that it would be a seismic Luka Doncic trade. It may even happen around the trade deadline. I don't know. But I don't see how, even with the injuries in the East, Milwaukee is remotely a contender, which I think, by the way, is the only reason why they kept Giannis this offseason is because Halliburton, Tatum, and now Darius Garland are all not going to start the season. So we have no idea how much what to expect from the East. Right now, you can make an argument easily the best player in the East outside of Giannis is Jalen Brunson.
Yeah. And just to touch on the Philadelphia 76ers, I don't have them in my top 8 either. And the biggest reason is, well, the elephant in the room. Can Joel Embiid stay healthy? I don't know the last time we saw a full healthy season from Joel. And when he's there, the 76ers are a very good team. We saw, even when he was compromised, they pushed the Knicks to 6 games. But are we going to get that type of performance out of Tyrese Maxey? I don't know. Like I said, is Joel Embiid going to stay healthy? Unlikely. So I can't trust the 76ers. I just can't. So in terms of my top 3, I agree with you on the teams, but because of Darius Garland's injury to start the season, I think the Cavaliers come out of the gate a little bit slow. I could see them starting the season 2-3 because they have the Knicks, the Nets, Bucks, and Pistons on a back-to-back at the Celtics, and then they host the Raptors. So theoretically I could see them starting the season 2-3. And because of the slow start and having to reintegrate Garland and later on Max Strus, I think the Knicks take advantage of that and they capture the number 1 seed. I also really like Jalen Brunson. I think he will be in the conversation for MVP this season. I don't think he will win it, but I think he will be very much in the mix for it. But I really like Jalen Brunson. Like I said, I think Josh Hart and OG Anunoby can fit in. But like I said, when you were talking about the Knicks, that's my biggest question, alongside what you mentioned with Karl Anthony Towns. And then I have the Cavaliers at number 2. So I just flipped 1 and 2. Like I said, the Garland injury scares me. I don't love that we lost both Ty Jerome and George Niang. I would have liked to have kept one or both of them, possibly.
Well, technically, they traded away Niang at the trade deadline, so they technically really only lost one.
That's true. I would have liked to have kept Jerome. I think he was very good for us coming off the bench. And we're putting a lot of faith in Lonzo Ball being able to stay healthy. I'm guessing we're going to give Jalen Tyson more minutes coming off the bench. Can he come in his second year and provide some of that wing scoring that we need off the bench? So I just have a couple questions about the Cavs. So even though I don't love the Knicks hire of Mike Brown, I would favor New York slightly to get the number 1 seed. We agree also about Orlando getting the number 3 seed. I really like the Desmond Bane acquisition. I think him and Paolo Banchero are going to be a deadly duo. I cannot wait to watch that. Plus, you have Jalen Suggs, the Wagner brothers. I think Orlando is going to be a lot better this season. And then with the number 4 seed, unlike you, I do not have the Chicago Bulls. I don't trust what they've done. They tried it with DeRozan and Vucevic and Levine, which I don't know why the Sacramento Kings are trying to do that, but they are. But I understand what you're saying about Josh Giddey and Kobe White and Vucevic, but the Bulls, until they take that next step and are like, okay, we can actually put it together and be a competent team, I don't have the faith in them. I wanted to put Milwaukee here, but I have the same question as you. Is Giannis going to stay a Buck this whole season? So at the number 4 seed, they pushed the New York Knicks to 6 games last year. I love Jaren Duran, or I think this is how you say it, Jaren Duran. Yep. Cade Cunningham. I have him, spoiler alert, I have him as most improved player. I think the Detroit Pistons jump way up and get that number 4 seed. I think they'll be like the Orlando Magic from 2000.
2 years ago.
Yes. I think they will be this year's Orlando Magic. And then at number 5, they are going to be without Jason Tatum for most of the year. But I really like Jaylen Brown. I know they lost both Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis, but they won the championship just 2 years ago. I'm not going to simply write them off. I've got the Boston Celtics being that number 5 seed, and I think that would be a heck of a showdown. Pistons, Celtics in the first round. Good God, I'd watch every minute of that. And then at number 6 seed, I think this team takes a huge step forward. It's my version of your Chicago Bulls, the Toronto Raptors. I think Scotty Barnes really takes that next step. I really like them. I think RJ Barrett and Scotty Barnes will continue to develop the chemistry I've seen from them. And I think the Raptors take a gigantic step and make it into the top 6. At number 7, I legitimately thought about the Brooklyn Nets. I did. But because I do think the Nets could be a feisty team this season. But I couldn't do it. So at number 7, as much as I hate him, because he eliminated us in the play-in tournament here in Cleveland. And he took Oklahoma to the Final Four where they lost to Villanova, I think it was. Or no, that might have been with Buddy Hield, excuse me. But either way, he was a sharpshooter in Oklahoma. Now they have Kristaps Porzingis. I got the Atlanta Hawks. And then at number 8, I did think about Philadelphia. I did think about Chicago. I did think about Heat culture, but no, I got to go with last year's Eastern Conference champion, push the Oklahoma City Thunder to 7 games. They still have Pascal Siakam. They still have Andrew Nembhard, Aaron Nesmith, Ben Shepherd, Obi Toppin. I got the Indiana Pacers as the number 8 seed.
So we really don't disagree on anything outside of Toronto versus Chicago. It's mostly the order, and I think, I could see either one of our scenarios playing out. So let's go through the bracket right now. I'll go through mine first, Josh, and if you need help, I do have yours written down here if you forget a potential matchup. But for me, it would be Hawks going to Cleveland. I'll take the Cavs. It would be Indiana trying to defend their Eastern Conference crown against the Knicks. I think they would get eliminated in the first round by the Knicks. My one upset in the first round would be the 6th seed Celtics. I think by this point, Jason Tatum would be back. I think they would have enough to knock off the Orlando Magic. And then I'll take the Bulls in a 7-game series. I think that's a very even series against Detroit. I think home court would matter. That would set up then the Cavs taking on the Bulls in the second round. I don't think the Cavs get shook by Chicago the way they got shook by Indiana. They will have home field advantage in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Knicks, who I think would have beat Boston last year, regardless if Tatum got hurt with the ACL or not. So I think the 2 best teams in the Eastern Conference are the number 2 and the number 1 seed, the Knicks and the Cavaliers. This is a rematch of what would be the 2023 first round playoffs. Might have been 22, but I believe it was 23.
No, it was 23 because in 2022, we first lost to the Nets in the playing tournament.
That's right.
And then lost to the Hawks.
So obviously the Cavs are going to shake off their physicality demons. It's funny because Mike Brown would be coming back to Cleveland to coach against the team that he carried to the NBA Finals in 2007. Also had a stint with them in 2013. And I hate to do this.
Anthony Bennett was the number 1 pick.
Yep. I hate to do this, but I'm sorry, Cavs fans. Until you prove to me in the playoffs you can get to the NBA Finals, I'm not going to pick them. I think the Knicks, for the first time since 2000, will represent the NBA in the Eastern or in the NBA Finals. I think they take one last step. I think Jalen Brunson is the Eastern Conference Finals Larry Bird MVP, and I think the Knicks probably do so in about 6 games, winning it in Madison Square Garden.
Okay, so for me, I believe it would be New York against
Indiana.
Okay, New York, Indiana. Because of the Tyrese Halliburton injury, I know Rick Carlisle is a heck of a coach. The Pacers took out the Knicks in 6 games, but I have the Knicks winning that series. I'm going to say Indiana, even without Halliburton, Indiana pushes that series to 7.
And then your next matchup would be Trae Young in Atlanta going to Cleveland.
Okay. I would have this series circled because I want revenge for that 2022 and play-in tournament. This is another one where I have a grudge against the Atlanta Hawks. So I have us absolutely destroying the Hawks in 5. I know the Hawks have given us trouble over the last couple seasons in the regular season, but I think But
in the playoffs, you can beat up Trae Young physicality-wise. They're not going to blow the whistle, which is the big difference.
Yes. I do think Kristaps Porzingis could give us trouble, but I'll give Atlanta 1 game.
Then this is a very interesting matchup. Two young teams, Toronto at Orlando.
So this would be a rematch of 2019 first round, which the Raptors won en route to winning the championship against the Golden State Warriors. But as much as I love Toronto, I love the chemistry that Paolo Banchero and Desmond Bane are going to have this season. And Franz Wagner is going to play off of that very well alongside Jalen Suggs and Mo Wagner. So I have Orlando winning that series in 6.
And then you have Boston as the 5 seed going to Detroit.
Okay. So by this point, I would expect Jason Tatum to be back. And as much as I want to push the Pistons into the second round, not when you're going against Jaylen Brown, not when you're going against hopefully a healthy Jason Tatum and Derek White. They still have Joe Mazzulla as their head coach. I got Celtics.
So that sets up another. Now, again, we both have now Celtics Knicks in the second round, except I have it as a 6 versus a 2, and you have it as a 1 versus a 5.
Yes. And then I would have Cleveland
hosting Orlando.
Okay. So I think Orlando would again push us to 7 games, just like they did back in 2024. I don't know if it would be that both teams win on their home courts. I think Orlando could come into Cleveland and steal one, and I think Cleveland could go into Orlando and steal one. But in this case, by that time, hopefully Garland will be healthy. Hopefully Strus will be healthy, but still coming off the bench. I want Hunter to stay in the starting lineup. And with Hunter hopefully being in the starting lineup, you can neutralize Paolo Banchero, which I believe he's the engine for Orlando. So the Magic will push us to 7 games, but I got the Cavs. And then
I agree with that.
With New York against Boston, I would love to pick the Celtics because I would love to see a Celtics Cavaliers Eastern Conference Finals. But who knows how healthy Jason Tatum's going to be. And like I said, without Porzingis and Drew Holiday, as much as I love Joe Mazzulla and Jaylen Brown, Derek White, I just think the Knicks are the better team. So we end up with the same Eastern Conference Finals.
Which is not good for either of those two teams. Because if you remember, we both picked Cleveland and Boston a year ago. We picked Milwaukee and Boston 2 years ago. And neither of those matchups happened.
Yes. But unlike you, for the first time since 2018, your Cleveland Cavaliers will be in the NBA Finals, and they will do it without LeBron. And will the Eastern Conference Finals Larry O'Brien Trophy winner be Donovan Mitchell? No. Will it be Darius Garland? No. It will be the guy who you believe has to step up and really be the centerpiece of this team. And I think he will in the Eastern Conference Finals, going against Cat from USC.
I love this.
Number 4, Evan Mobley.
I can't get there, Josh. You're more optimistic than me. Do I think it absolutely should and needs to happen? Do I think the Cavs overall are better than the Knicks? I do, especially when healthy. I just need to see them prove it to me at this point in the playoffs, because that's one of the reasons why this regular season for me for the Cavs is one of the least exciting in a long time and has no merit because of the way we filtered out in the last 2 postseasons.
No, I totally understand your concern. And I did have a bit of skepticism putting the Cavs in the NBA Finals. Trust me, I really did. But I just, for me, it's more so about the Knicks rather than the Cavs.
I think for both these teams, if they're going to make the finals, this is the year. Everybody else is sort of cleared out of the way. I think we both sort of agree. Even if you think Giannis and Milwaukee are going to be together the full year, they're not on a Cavs or a Knicks level.
Yeah. But the thing with the Knicks is I don't know how much more they're going to use their bench. That's why.
Yep, that's the biggest question. Now, Mike Brown did have a history of using in Sacramento, so that's where I'm at.
Yeah.